to the Loggins Den. Today we have a special guest. His name is Randy Paisley, and his main focus is tennis. How are you doing, Randy?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. Great. Let's hop right in. Tell us your fitness story and whether you want it to focus around tennis or if you did other sports growing up, and then, so give it a go.
Okay, I would definitely consider myself an active person. I am the happiest when I'm active. So growing up, whatever the sport and the season was, that's what I would participate in. So through high school, I played football in the fall. In the winter, I played basketball. In the spring, I played tennis. And in the summer, I played baseball and tennis, along with camps for those other sports. And then when I went away to junior college, I ran cross country, played basketball, played tennis and baseball. Tennis was my focus.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed being active. Then when I went to Northern Illinois, I concentrate on tennis as the sport that I played, but then I still played intramurals with 16-inch softball and volleyball, and I enjoy being active.
Yeah, when you were at Northern, you were on the team as well?
Yes. My junior year, I walked on, and they had a tournament of 30 some people, and we were indoor in the facility in the field house with all the different lines. The court was really fast, and I was fortunate enough to win that tournament.
Really?
And made it on the team. And then I played my junior year, my senior year. Ended up most valuable player my senior year.
That's awesome. When in college tennis then, was there a ton of foreign people on the teams, or was it mostly people from the States?
Well, in junior college, we were fortunate enough to go to nationals. At the national tournament, it was probably 85% international players.
Really?
So very few Americans. The team that I played on at Northern, most of us were Americans. But a lot of the teams we played against had foreigners.
Yep, that's sweet. Thinking of grade school era, when you were in grade school, did your parents put you in just all sorts of sports, or were you the one kind of asking to do it?
I was asking to do it. My dad is also a real active athlete, so from when I was 4 or 5, I was the bat boy for his church softball team.
Oh, cool.
I would go watch him play basketball, and they would have big little baskets off to the side, and I would shoot into the baskets. And then when they had timeouts, I would shoot on the rims.
Yeah.
But from as far back as I remember, I was going to the gym or watching my dad, and I couldn't wait until I was old enough to be able to play on the same team with him. Yeah. I had 3 brothers, and so one of my fondest memories is being on a church softball team and having a Paisley on every base, and then Paisley at the plate. So that was kind of fun.
That is cool. I remember growing up, and I have 2 older sisters, and they were always in sports. So clearly I had to be in sports kind of thing and try it out. And my oldest sister still plays she likes to coach a lot, and my middle sister not as much, but she likes to play volleyball. But I think it's huge if your parents are active or things like that in our life, right? Whether it's a negative experiences or positive experiences. Like I used to watch my dad just read books, and so I thought reading was cool kind of thing. But my dad did not like rap, so I did not like rap. So it's one of those that you can think of plenty of negative things that could occur in a family. Yeah. But man, I really believe if our parents are active, then the chances of your kids are going to be even higher as well.
Yeah, both my mom and dad. My mom was a real good golfer.
Cool.
She was a cheerleader, so growing up, she was kind of the taxi driver. So she would drive us around to all the different practices.
Right.
My grandparents came from Hanover, Illinois to watch me play. Didn't hardly miss a game, but just a very active family that were very supportive of everything we got involved in, whether it was music or drama or athletics.
So in high school, did you run cross country as well?
No, in high school, I just cross country is during the football season. So
Got it.
So I played football in the fall.
You played football?
Mm-hmm. I was a quarterback and a defensive back.
Oh, very cool. So you finished Northern,
Mm-hmm.
and then where does your fitness life take you after that?
After Northern, I became a school teacher, and pretty much almost every year when I was teaching school, I always combined that with some kinds of coaching.
Yeah.
So when I coach tennis, I'm involved with the athletes as well. So I would say as long as there was a ball that I could chase,
Right.
I was there.
Yeah.
That's how I stayed in shape. I love volleyball, I love tennis, I love badminton, I love just any kind of ball sport I enjoyed.
But as you've coached for many years, I'm sure you've noticed other coaches can sometimes not also be in shape. If that makes sense. So like tennis is one that you can be moving all the time if you decide. But what other sports did you coach that maybe was hard? Was basketball harder to stay in shape or did you just, or when coaching basketball, did you also find yourself like huffing and puffing at times too?
Well, through school, my major was physical education.
Mm-hmm.
My minor was math and health. And almost all of my teaching career was teaching math because the PE jobs were so hard to come by.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed I would say the majority, unfortunately, of the PE teachers that I saw were those that had the whistle in the mouth and pretty large.
Yeah.
They were not what I would consider in shape individuals. So I just thought, well, if I ever was able to teach PE, I was going to definitely get in there and show them and try to be more of a model of what the regular student should be going after. So
yeah, I think that's more important now than ever too, just because our population is getting heavier and heavier, and we see diseases connected to that as well.
Yeah.
So we have to be the light. Like if we're gonna tell kids they need to run and be active, then we need to model that as well.
Right.
So you're coaching and you're staying active. Where is tennis still fitting in there? Like, are you competing while coaching or?
Yeah, I enjoy competition.
Yeah.
And the way that I stay really in shape is by competing. So when we moved to Tennessee, I started playing in the age groups. So they have 30 and over age group, 35 and over age group. So you're in your niche of 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so my goal was to get rated in the state each year.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
We lived in the Nashville area, so we would play players from Knoxville. Knoxville always had a really good group. Memphis had a really good group. Chattanooga had a really strong group, and then Nashville had so we were going as an individual, but also the same tournaments, the better players in the state were playing in.
Yeah.
So I would play singles and doubles. And most of the tournaments would run 3 or 4 days. And we would probably play 5 or 6 tournaments in a year. A couple of years, we tried to go for a sectional ranking, which that would be the southeast part of the country.
Yeah.
So we would go to Georgia or New Orleans or Atlanta. We'd go around and play some tournaments there.
And this is through USTA?
USTA sanctioned tournaments, yeah.
Cool.
So
So, Randy, here's the truth. You are the goal, to be honest. Like, when I'm 60, I still want to be able to run and be active. So I'm going to throw down, going to go decade. We're going to go 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, now you're in your 60s of, what was generally your fitness? So, 20s. What was generally, would you say, was your fitness?
to be honest with you, my fitness has always been in the competition part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not a typical go to the gym, workout, lift weights.
Yeah.
I would, if I knew there was a tournament coming up, I would play practice sets.
Yeah.
And typically with younger players, those that would could keep up to me or be a little quicker than I am.
Yeah.
In my age group, I was all the way up. I was pretty much one of the quicker players. I didn't hit it as hard. I never went with power, but I went with placement and outlasting.
Yeah.
If I knew the match was going to go 3 sets, I expected to win because I could outlast my opponent.
Very cool.
Each decade, I would say, you graduated with the same players.
Yeah.
So you would see the same faces, but they might have an extra knee brace on.
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
elbow. And we were always sharing, popping the ibuprofen or whatever.
Yeah.
But every decade, it was a little more difficult with the joints.
Yeah.
They just would wear out or start getting surgeries on certain parts. But I was very blessed to have the physical physique of when I eat, I gain a little bit.
Yeah.
As long as I'm active, my weight stays pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But if I knew I had a competition coming up, I would, with the practice sets, would help, and playing younger players would help.
Cool.
And then just playing really good competition. It's kind of like Serena Williams. You'd look at her at the beginning of tournaments. She didn't look like she was in very good shape, but by the end, at the end of the 2 weeks, she was fit.
Yeah.
That's kind of
your mentality on
that.
Cool.
Yeah, I would kind of work my way into it because most of my time was either teaching school or teaching the game of tennis, and then I would play on the side. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to kind of prepare.
Before we tackle the 5 components of fitness, one more question would be that, did you ever fall out of shape at any point in your life? Or as you stayed, if you, due to either not being injured or being injured, have you ever fallen out of shape in your lifetime?
When I was a junior in high school, unfortunately, the last football game, I broke my ankle.
Oh.
So didn't hurt me with football, but I missed the first half of basketball season. And during that downtime, that was just, I was miserable to live with probably. Yeah. But the time, during PE class, I would go to the weight room and I benched. Yeah. So I got really good at the bench press.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I set goals for myself at the bench.
Right.
But then that same year, I got ready for tennis season.
Yeah. And
it was a week before the season started. I was out playing pickup basketball in the backyard, snapped the ankle again in 2 places, and I missed my whole junior year of tennis. So that was really a hard year for me to handle. But same deal. I spent a lot of time going back to that bench press again. Really, since I've been in school, I've just looked for things to be active in. Yeah. I was the program director of the YMCA in Dixon for 3 years, and so I organized a 3-man volleyball just because it was more like tennis. Yeah. So we played in that. Always played in a regular volleyball or played basketball league or church softball or something like that. So I've always tried to stay active. Since the pandemic hit, I got laid off for the first time in my career. Yeah. I was a tennis pro of a club, and we just had to shut down. During those 4 months, that was probably the first time I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. Yeah. So I gained some weight. Yeah. For the first time, like 10 pounds. Yeah. Is a lot for me.
For sure.
And just didn't feel good. Yeah. During the time. So fortunately, I didn't get COVID. But as soon as we were able to get back on the court, I really worked at trying to get myself back into shape. What I'm dealing with now within my 60s is joint. I don't rotate. I don't as well as I used to. Okay. And I can go from point A to point B pretty quickly. Yeah. My first step has always been pretty fast. Yeah. So it's never, am I going to go for that ball or not? It's always, I'm going to go for it. Yeah. And then by the 3rd or 4th step, I can see if I'm not catching up, then I might shut it down. Mm-hmm. But turning in changing direction, I've had more pains to deal with, and I'm interested in learning what I can do to try to help my joints, especially in my hip and my knee.
Yeah.
My shoulder, I just don't hit the ball real hard, so that hasn't been a big issue. But my hip and my knee has been.
Yeah.
So I'm always interested in hearing of other people that
For sure.
what do they do.
Yeah. So our 5 components of fitness are muscular endurance, which is how many repetitions we can do. That could be with body weight, whether it's pull-ups, body squats, push-ups. It could even be with a barbell, doing squats or bench. Muscular strength is one maximum effort. And that could be a maximum jump, like jumping as high as you possibly can. Or it could be put as much weight on the barbell as you possibly can and do 1 repetition. How we train for each muscular endurance or muscular strength is different. There's some overlap. So if maybe I'm training for muscular strength, I would do like 5 reps, 3 reps, even all the way up to 8 reps, but you would probably cycle down into a lower rep range. Muscular endurance, if that's your goal, you could do as many as 20 reps and then probably cycle down to probably no lower than 8 if that's your goal. Then we have cardiovascular, and that is that could be through sports, it could be through steady state cardio, whether it's cross country, or it could be more of a HIIT kind of workout where you're doing sprints, which would be our anaerobic state. We have flexibility, which we could also use the word mobility, just our range of motion in our joints. And then we have body composition. And our body composition is our muscle, how much percentage we have muscle, fat percentage, but it also could be what we put in our body. So what we eat, it could be the hand we were dealt for like DNA. Like we have people that have type 1 diabetes, we have other concerns. So that has an impact, and some things we can control and some things we definitely cannot control. So let's start with muscular endurance. What is your experience with muscular endurance?
That's an area that I should be doing more of.
Sure.
And typically I will say that, I will think that, but to actually do it, I'm not very good at it.
And the truth is that you don't have to do all of them. Like we had someone over that was a marathoner, right? So what's the purpose of her doing muscular strength? There is none, right? So a maximum effort for a squat, it's like, no, maybe muscular endurance could help, but we are also adults. We have to juggle our time, right? So time spent doing what we love till what's not. So it's okay if some of these answers are like, nope, don't do that, right? But you had mentioned like maybe muscular endurance would be something, because I think muscular endurance can very much be a prehab, like to prevent injury from occurring. Something I've been looking into is like knee stability, and how, I really wish a lot of high school programs would focus on that, especially for women, so we don't blow their ACL out and things like that. But I'd even wonder if knee stability via like muscular endurance would help out your hip or your knee, doing things where you're doing a movement to strengthen your muscles, but also to prevent injury within those joints. So like when I squat currently, I'm using it as a strength exercise, but I'm also using it as a mobility exercise. So I'm going through a full range of motion, and then I'm also focusing on the stability where I'm making sure my knee is in like an optimal position, a strong position. And in theory, if I can do that with weight on, then I should be safer when I'm cutting and moving things like that. So my wife's a physical therapist, so I wondered if she's thought of things that's like, oh, what are some really good movements that, you don't even need to be putting extra weight on, but body movements that could help with the joints. And then also, maybe there isn't a ton. It's just like, we just sometimes lose to time, right? So I wonder if...
I think that your joints just get tighter.
Yeah.
And when they get tighter and they get a little more brittle, it's easier for them break down on you.
Yeah. So I wonder, the whole idea of like, yep, there's for sure the time, right? Like over time, we're just going to lose that battle. But then there's also, maybe there are things we can do to help prevent that
I like to use my body weight
Yeah.
to use for it, whether it's a wall push-up or whatever the activity
Right.
is. And then I used to do my exercises very quickly.
Yeah.
Everything was quick.
Right.
And now I'm trying to slow down a little bit more.
Yeah.
So to make the crunches a little slower,
Yeah.
or the push-ups slower,
Yeah.
and hold it in different positions.
So you are doing that currently?
So a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times a week would you say you would do a body workout?
Well, I've got a ball that I stretch out on.
Yeah.
A big ball.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a routine or not, but it's just something I do kind of daily.
Yeah.
And just to try to stretch my back and my neck, and I go all the way up and down my left side especially. So I'm left-handed, so that's kind of where a lot of my strain goes. So I'll try to relax my neck, relax my shoulders, all the way down to hip, knee.
And that's a big deal, because just because it's not your hyper focus, that is something that if you've been doing for a long time, probably is why you can still keep running and things like that, because just trying to figure out what do people do to stay successful, right? So maybe that has helped with injury prevention by doing some daily routines like that. So muscular strength, is that something you've it sounded like you bench press at one time, but in current years, that was on necessity to just stay sane, huh? Yeah.
No, I haven't. I know of other tennis players that's what they would do, because they wanted to ramp up their serve. So they go for a lot of my power comes from my legs on my serve. So be able to hit that same kind of serve in the third set rather than just the first set.
Yeah.
That's where it would be helpful if I did more.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be hard to be convinced that a ton of upper body would make especially in the muscular strength side, where we're trying to do a maximum effort, would be beneficial for tennis. Just because, one, it might mess with your swing style. Like, all right, we're super fatigued in our arms, now we got to go do a tennis session. Could really mess with you. But
I know watching video that the trainers will have the weighted ball and play catch with the weighted ball with the movement of the tennis swing.
And that's probably more like a muscular endurance style.
So getting that twist down and that turn from the legs all the way through.
Then, do you do anything else for flexibility besides your daily routine?
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
That's a great one to have if you're doing it daily, right? I wonder how many people are just not going through the motions. I have a friend that he said it's like the use it or lose it idea, where it's like he would, from his car, he's in his, I think he's 50 now, of like the idea of, I'm just gonna run from my car to the entrance of the store, or vice versa. And I'll look silly, but the idea is I'm gonna still have running in my life, or and things like that, because if you haven't sprinted in 10 plus years, I gotta think you would think maybe more possibility for injury, and you're going to be slower probably than 10 years before. Whereas like if you just keep at it, right, with tennis and things you love, and then even with stretching, it's like, maybe you just won't be imagine how much tighter you would be if that wasn't part of your daily routine. I wonder if injury would catch up to you in the years past. So
when I was teaching tennis recently, I stopped 3 months ago when we moved to Rochelle. My goal was to walk at least 20,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
And on a good day where I was teaching a lot of hours, I was up to 35 or 40,000 steps in the day. In that period, there were several times where I would sprint to go get a ball. And it's just kind of a natural thing that I do. If I'm playing, a ball goes there, my first is to take off and try to run it down. Don't give up until the ball's bounced twice.
Right.
So
and then body composition. You had mentioned just recently gained 10 pounds, but then, that's not something that has been a huge impact in your life. But is there anything food-wise that like has kept you, on check?
Well, 15 years ago, we moved from Tennessee to Illinois, and I was teaching school in a school system that was kind of tough school. So I started getting sick. I was getting sick every couple weeks, like food poisoning sickness.
Yeah.
So I got tested, and everything came back fine. And we finally tested celiac test, and I came back as a positive for celiac. So as long as I stay away from gluten, so this isn't something that I was just a choice. It was just something because I had celiac. I've stayed away from all wheat,
Yeah.
and any kind of gluten, which is in a lot of our foods these days. I'm okay. If I mess up one time, it's not good.
Yeah.
Each time I think I'm gonna die.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's like food. It's like having food poisoning sickness all over again. So I definitely watch that. Anytime we go out to eat, I have to read the labels.
Yeah.
Ask questions. Even in soy or whatever, there's a lot of times there's gluten in there, so just got to be real careful. Unfortunately, my wife and my son also stay away from gluten.
Yeah.
And he stays away from dairy as well.
Okay.
But I try not to overeat. When I'm hungry, I'll eat.
Yeah.
I like sweets. That's probably my one vice.
Yeah.
Ice cream. I like ice cream.
Yeah, love it.
So in moderation, I'm okay with that. But again, I'm pretty fortunate that I'm not going to gain a lot of weight.
Right.
If I do overindulge. But my wife is really good at watching what we as a family eat.
Yeah.
So she monitors it much more than I would. I eat what she puts on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge blessing. My wife as well. I would probably eat very basic things, and I get to eat
Right. I would
things
have
that
a
are
very
delicious
bland
and
diet
healthy.
if she
Yeah,
wasn't around.
me too. Absolutely. Yeah. So it sounds like celiac is a frustration at times, but you got to think avoiding gluten has probably helped in a way to keeping a healthy body composition.
Yeah, I believe that my joints would be much worse if I hadn't changed that part of my diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other things you do in life like that? Like, how often do you go on walks with your wife? Are there any other active parts in your life that you do outside of tennis or throughout the years?
Since we moved to Rochelle, we're down to one car.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to places and it's nice, everything's 5 or 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
So that's a great change from where we were before. So I have a bicycle. So that's a great activity. I can pedal hard or I can pedal easy.
Right.
So that's kind of nice to have that to kind of try to keep my legs in shape a little bit.
See what happens when winter comes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I won't be riding through the snow.
No. There are those like fat tire bikes that just go through anything, but I would still be nervous going over ice or something.
I don't stay still real well. So even if I'm around the house, I do a lot of moving.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sitting and watching TV, even I have to get up and move around.
Really?
If I sit too long, my body is not real happy.
Yeah.
So I listen.
That's awesome. Well, Randy, I think I'm super pumped. We went through how you stay active, how tennis has kept you very fit, and even what you do on a daily. And
I would add one thing that since I moved to Rochelle, I got invited to go play pickleball.
Oh, yes.
And when I was a tennis instructor, pickleball was kind of our arch nemesis.
Yeah.
Because it's really loud.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that plays it, you can't play tennis next to a pick because the paddles are loud. Everything's. So I kind of thought, oh, the pickleball's bad. And you don't have to have a lot of form. They just smack the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been playing some pickleball once a week, and it is still a really good workout.
Yes.
The ball does not bounce outside, and it's windy, so that can be quite a challenge.
So you have not played indoors yet, pickleball?
Haven't played indoors.
Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed playing, and it's a sport that people of all different ages, all different ability, background, can get involved in pickleball and enjoy it pretty quickly.
The barrier to entry is much lower for pickleball than it is tennis, right? Like the ball doesn't react as hard. The ball, it's so, to start playing pickleball and make it look like what you would think of the game pickleball is so much faster to pick up than tennis, where even the serve of tennis, when what it's supposed to look like, most people don't serve, they serve straight on.
Right.
The barrier to entry to pickleball is so fast, but yet you can move. Singles, I have a friend that's really into it who's starting to play tournaments, and my feet hurt afterwards because I'm cutting so much, even though the court is so much smaller, but it just means there's a better chance I can get to that ball,
Yeah. I remember in junior college playing indoor badminton for the first time. And I was used to thinking badminton was just kind of tap, hit the birdie really high, and I loved playing indoor badminton.
Very cool.
You have such a good workout in a short period of time.
And then even over lifetime, just the importance of hand-eye coordination keeping up, right? Whether it's tennis, but even pickleball, especially in doubles, how it should be very quick up at the net, and just keeping that up of just having to take small steps going each way and then just volleys.
Yeah. Growing up, I played ping pong first.
Yeah.
So as soon as I could see over the table, I was hitting the ping pong ball, and that taught me defense, how to play defense.
Yeah.
And eventually play offense. So that has helped my tennis game, and it's helped pick up pickleball a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. So we'll cut it at that. But Randy, thanks for being an awesome guest, and we'll see you later, Loggins Den.